thoughts and feelings, and TikTok is just not long enough for them. So I decided to come back to YouTube where I can rant and rave for who knows how long about things that are going on in society that are making me just be like, huh? Such as shows like Love is Blind. Okay. Now, I did not actually start watching Love is Blind until I was watching it for this video. But shout out to Kenny JD because I found her and started watching her commentaries. And literally just listening to her talk about Love is Blind made me want to watch it myself. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do Kenny a favor and I'll make my own video. So I'm not just waiting on her to tell me what the show is about. So, if you are unaware, Love is Blind is a show where 15, first of all, that's just way too many, 15 male and 15 female singles live in like a shared living quarters, and they each date in these pod like capsules, I suppose, and they are working to find true love without knowing what the person on the other side of the wall ever looks like. And so once you decide who your person is, you all fall in love. And then it's like, so, I think I'm in love with you. Let's get married. The guy proposes. They meet each other for the very first time. It sounds like a really sweet concept in theory. I realized I still had my work shirt on and that just was not going to do. So episode 1, we get started with Lydia and Milton. So Lydia is like 30, 31, something like that. And Milton is 24. So they hit it off nerding out over rocks. Lydia is a geologist and he's an engineer. Okay. I have my notes here. We're going to make sure that I keep up with him. Lydia says that Milton is younger than her brother. And he's like, we're here in the pods, we're in the experiment to, put all of that exterior stuff aside. Like, we're not worried about age, how people look and stuff like that. You can tell that Milton like really is starting to like Lydia. And Lydia's kind of like, because she's kind of like still in her head about how old he is, and she's not necessarily like fully opening herself up to wanting to talk to someone who is at least 6 years younger than her. So next we have Taylor and JP. So they seem to hit it off, but in like a awkward, quiet way. And like, I think it's probably some parts editing because we hear them go back over stuff that like they didn't, like we never heard them ask the questions. So they were like, oh yeah, like you said this. And I'm like, when did they ask this question? I missed this completely. It feels like there's a lot of like awkward silences in. And like, it kind of goes to like later when, Taylor points out like some of like the awkwardness and the silence that she was kind of like ready for it. So like, I guess they wanted to make sure that we felt it the whole time. So, okay, sure. Next we have Uche and Aaliyah. They seem to really hit it off over nerdiness. Nerdy used to be a bad thing. Like, being nerdy used to be like clowned on, and now like it's the cool thing to be nerdy. And I'm just like, or maybe it's just cool. They have a cute moment bonding over their love of poetry and their guitars. Like, they both own the same brand of guitar. And as they're talking about poetry, Aaliyah says that her favorite movie is The Love Jones. And they just have like a really cute little moment. And I'm like, okay, I see what's happening here. Okay, so next up we have Izzy. And Izzy seems to have his pick of the litter. Like, the folks seem to be smitten with Izzy just based off of vibes. Like, it was at least like 4 girls who were like, no, Izzy's my number one. And I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work, girl. But okay. Lydia really likes her some Izzy. But Izzy is kind of like, he's not like, I feel like he thinks she's cool, but he's just like, that I don't really know if that's my girl just yet. Chris and Johnny have a really deep moment in the pods where Johnny asks Chris about his first sexual experience. It felt genuine to see them bonding over like him being that vulnerable and her just being like, there letting him listen, venting. Because some people on the show, like, they'll ask folks like really deep questions, and then as they're like venting out their hearts, it's just not giving that you actually care. But like this situation, like I really feel like Johnny was like there for Chris in that situation. I personally just hope that he is going to therapy and that he is healing about it, because he said he was 17 when the situation happened, and I don't remember how old he is, but I know he's a grown man now, and I'm just like, but have you done any work to heal? So we cut back to Izzy and Lydia. Izzy tells Lydia that he is connected with other people, and eventually he does break up with her. She is hurt because Lydia has Izzy as her number one. Start keeping up with these names. Whew. Izzy was Lydia's number one, and like I get, like, maybe it's just because I'm brand new to this, and this is still episode 1. This is still episode 1. My whole thing is like, there are 15 other dudes in this house, and later we're gonna find out why it's really 13 other dudes for her. But I was just like, girl, there's more fish in the sea. Get back out there, boo. Like, come on. But she was in her feelings, feeling a type of way. Lydia goes back out into the living quarters, and Aaliyah is comforting her. Trying to make her feel better, all the good stuff. And Johnny and I want to say Stacy. I literally just wrote the blonde girl that likes Izzy, which doesn't narrow it down. And I don't remember who was who, because at that point it was too many people that I was looking at 30 brand new people. I can't keep up with everybody. Johnny and some other girl were off to the side talking and being shady, and just watching her be in pain. Like, I get that it's a dating competition show, and that, you didn't come here to make friends. You came here to find a husband. But, like, the girl is hurt. Like, have some compassion. So then we go back into the pod with Uche and Aaliyah, and she tells him that she really likes him, and, like, logically, she has to protect herself. Uche was like, listen to me. If you're ever feeling unsure, bring that up to me. And I was like, oh, okay, Uche, like, I got you. I was like, yes, Uche, you better validate her feelings, because, like, this is a really, like, granted, I've never been in a situation like this, and I probably never will, but I can fully understand that this is probably a very taxing and scary and just terrifying situation, because you're essentially cut off from the rest of the world, and then you just come into this new situation, and then you start falling for somebody, and it's just like, I don't know what you look like. Like, what if the stuff is not all peaches and cream when we get back out into the real world? Like, it's scary. So for him to have been like, girl, I got you. Like, whenever you feel it in doubt, just let me know, and I will reassure you that this is where you need to be. Okay, come on. So Aaliyah's like, what are some of your deal breakers? And they both discuss how they don't like liars. And then it comes up that Aaliyah cheated on her partner, I want to say 2.5 years ago. And Uche is like, so you're a recent cheater. Uche, we just had such a beautiful moment. Why did you have to go ruin it? You didn't have to do that. And it was just crazy to me that he fixed his mouth to say that to her when he was just like, oh, you're my girl, and if I don't leave with you, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And they had a pretty decent fight about it. And I feel like Uche is valid to be concerned with the fact that she has cheated in her recent past. But as we learn later on, it's a bit hypocritical for him to come at her like this, but we'll get to that. Eventually, Uche comes to his senses because, like, have you seen Aaliyah? Well, he hasn't, but I have. And I'm just like, Uche, don't mess this up. Uche recognizes that her telling him this is a really good thing. And he's like, thank you for telling me this. Like, let's go forward from this. But Aaliyah has already left the room. Like, she's outside the pod, though, close the door, sliding down the wall, crying. Like, it's already all bad. And the same way that Aaliyah had came to Lydia and was consoling her in her situation, Lydia now comes to Aaliyah and is making her feel better. And Lydia is just like, being an A+ friend. She was really giving drunken girl in the club camaraderie. And I love that, because the last time when Lydia was at her feelings, the other girls, the vibe wasn't vibing. So I was happy that Lydia provided the vibe of care and envelopment and love that I needed to see. So Uche goes back into the men's quarters and he's talking to the guys about how Aaliyah told him that she has cheated in the past. And they're like, is it worth losing her over? Like, she told you, like, is that not something that you can, like, let's be wise about this, my guy. So everyone has come to their senses, and now the ball's in his court to get her back, because she was already like, well, he don't trust me. I'm being judged on something I did almost 3 years ago. And so now it's up to him to be like, baby, please, I'm sorry. Like, let's just move forward. And yeah, that is episode 1. But Netflix was like, look, we know how you girls like to tussle, so we're going to give you four episodes. Okay, so episode 2. We start with Lydia and Milton. Their pod has like a beach theme. So they have like the little like pool floaties and like the like folding chairs. I don't know if it's a pool or a beach theme, but like there are beach chairs. Are they pool chairs? I don't know. The couch was gone. That's all I know. Lydia shares with Milton that her strongest connection cut things off with her. And Lydia shares how she, craves to be loved, and she wants to be loved for who she truly is. And Milton is, like building her back up, reaffirming her. And you can see that she is like warming up to the idea of Milton. JP and Taylor are up next in the pods, and we learn a little bit more about JP's childhood and like some of his issues with his mother. And his feelings about that situation. They have a nice little bonding moment. They exchange I love yous. So next we have Uche and Aaliyah back in the pod. So at this point, I'm fully invested in watching whatever is happening with this relationship. They are absolutely my favorite. And I'm just like, through the ups and downs, through this journey of discovery, whatever happens with y'all, I'm invested. They come back into the pod and Aaliyah voices her concerns about his judgment in that moment. One of the concerns that Aaliyah voiced was him saying, how do I know that you won't do that again? And then Uche, because he fixed his mouth to say, did I say that? Did I say, how do I know you won't hurt me again? And she's like, yes. And me and Aaliyah said it at the exact same time, because, sir, like, we was right there. We heard you say that. Then he'll try to be like, well, if I said that, I'm sorry, because that's not what I meant. Well, if that's not what you meant, then why did you say it? Come on, Uche. I'm rooting for you. You don't do me like this, Uche. Like, come on. This is a roller coaster, and I'm getting dizzy. All right, come on now. And so Aaliyah brings up the point of, how could she feel comfortable bringing up things to him if she doesn't feel comfortable that he won't be super judgmental towards her. And he's like, do you not think that we'll have arguments? And at this point, I'm starting to get a little frustrated, because it seems like every question that she is asking him, he's answering her with another question. And I'm just like, all right now, Uche, if you don't directly answer this question, we're going to have problems, okay? Because I'm 10 toes down for Leah at this point, okay? That is my girl. What you're not going to do is keep deflecting, okay? Keep deflecting with other questions. Answer the question that was asked of you, sir. So Uche discusses his past trust issues and relationships, and how he is afraid of how much he likes Aaliyah, because he's afraid of getting hurt again, which is fair. That's valid. Honestly, Aaliyah didn't have to tell him any of that, but, he understands that with her telling him this information, that he could have been upset and that he could have just completely left the situation. And so he appreciates the honesty. I appreciate the growth because he was starting to piss me off and I was about to be like, Uche, I was rooting for you. Don't have me out here looking foolish in these streets now. And yeah, so Uche states that, if he wants people to be honest with him, Uche has to create an environment where people feel comfortable coming to him and being honest. So he recognizes that he has areas of growth, that he's been a judgmental person in the past, and that he has some work to do. So I love that for him. We love growth around here. Next up, we have Izzy and Stacy back in the pod. So while I'm not a fan of Stacy, I just don't care for her. She gives, that overly aggressive white girl at the bar who's like already very drunk when she first got there and is still drinking, and is like the one who is like just ruining the vibe for everybody else because she is a party of one and is just screaming and just doing the absolute that's Stacy. That's Stacy all the way. I'm not necessarily a fan of her, but Izzy seems to like her, and for the time being, I like Izzy. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll open up to Stacy. Izzy opens up to Stacy that he feels that she is not very open and vulnerable with him, and he feels like she is more so just enjoying the ride. And Stacy fixed her lips to say, that sounds like a much more enjoyable ride. Huh? Girl. So he's trying to have a full-fledged relationship. He's like, hey, so like I'm enjoying the fun parts of this, but I feel like you're not opening yourself up to the deeper connections. And she's just like, yeah, no, I'm not. We're having fun. That's what I want. And so Izzy is rightfully confused. And so now he's conflicted about like what he's wanting. But he does still have Johnny. And so he's just kind of like trying to figure out what it is that he's doing. But yeah, Stacy is like, you want someone that you can have fun with for the rest of your life. And she's not going to half-ass a relationship. And she's never failed at anything. And like, while I understand that the show in and of itself is a competition because you're competing for the people that you're wanting to date, but the relationship is not a competition. You're not trying to win the relationship. So I've never failed at anything is an odd comment to say. So next we have Chris and Johnny, and they are like two cavities. They are literally so sweet. Chris and Johnny are just laughing and giggling and having a grand old time. I love them together. They are absolutely the cutest. While I do like Johnny with Izzy, I feel like Johnny and Chris are the couple that need to be paired together of the four of the who is Johnny gonna pick. Johnny needs to pick Chris. So next up, we have Izzy and Johnny. So Izzy talks about his family being Jehovah's Witnesses, and he talks about his childhood, how they didn't celebrate holidays, and she's just like, that's a lot. But she says it in a much more like caring and concerned way. Like she's actually like really, really nice about it. And she's like, are you still a Jehovah's Witness? And he's like, girl, absolutely not. Girl, absolutely not. So JP and Taylor get in their pods. He finally asks her the question. She says yes. Okay, cool, moving forward. So we're back with Chris and Johnny, and Chris really likes Johnny. You can tell that like Chris is a sweetheart. Like he wants to, get his wife, have his family, have his life. Like he wants the nuclearness of it all. So Johnny says that she has a stronger connection with someone else and that she wishes to explore that further. And so they end pretty amicably. Chris is a little hurt because, Johnny was his number one. But, stuff happens. So next we have Izzy and Johnny. And Johnny tells Izzy that she cut off her number two. So they, go past that topic. Johnny opens up about her past relationship. She had a history of dating just like trash people. She was saying that she had dated people who had substance abuse issues. Izzy is kind of concerned about that because he feels like Johnny still like holds a lot of love for her ex. And while I feel like she probably has love for this person who is now dead, she says that, you know, she's ready to love again, like she's moved on and like all good things, this, that, and the third. They leave kind of rocky for the night from the pods, and Johnny goes back and is being shady. So this is the second time. This is the second time Johnny's being shady. And I'm like, alright, girl, I was trying to root for you. You making that hard. She goes back in the living quarters and is being shady about if Izzy chooses Stacy, he's not gonna be happy, and how Izzy is and she says that Stacy is Izzy's Chris because Stacy is the safe choice and Chris would have been Johnny's safe choice, because she can see like exactly what their life would look like and it would just be very safe. But like with Izzy, like she feels like the excitement and the butterflies, and I feel like she's a 5th grader with a crush on someone. And I'm just like, now you got me defending Stacy, because I already said I wasn't a fan of that girl. But Stacy ain't do nothing to you. Your issue is with Izzy, not with Stacy. So how did Stacy get brought up in this? Like, that don't make no sense. Keep that girl name out your mouth. So as we are ending episode 2, JP and Taylor are getting ready to meet. They're standing behind their respective doors. We get the bright like silhouette light on them both that like puts their silhouettes on the doors. Okay, so episode 3 starts. They drag it out to all holy hell. JP and Taylor meet. They're all lovey-dovey and super awkward, and they are happy with each other. Okay, cool. So we go back to the living quarters, and Stacy is talking to some girl. Like, remember when I said there was 15 women and 15 men? I don't know who this girl is talking to. Like, I'm sure they put a name up somewhere on the screen, but like the names be up there for all of 0.3 seconds. So it's just like, okay, cool. But Stacy is talking to some girl about how Izzy is her top person and how Johnny is being very territorial over him. And then Stacy wrote a poem for Izzy, and the poem is so hilariously bad. And she's like, Izzy, you put me in a tizzy. I want something fizzy. I want to be your Izzy Missy. And it's just like, there's a lot of slant rhymes in it. And it's just like, okay, girl, you could have went over to Aaliyah real quick and asked her to help you with that poem, because, girl, what? Izzy is trying to decide if Stacy is all in or not, because really he's been getting the feeling that she's not. And so he's just like, you know, what's really going on? And so like they're talking or whatever, and like, I won't lie to you, I'm not super invested in them two. I kind of tuned out. Like, I had been pausing a lot. I was getting tired. I was like, okay. So next we have Uche and Aaliyah. Still my faves, even though with their ups and downs, their rockiness, like I'm invested in their relationship. Aaliyah starts to talk about like some of the weird things that she does, and she was like, I like to grab like the skin on the back of your elbow, and he's like, you be out here grabbing weenuses? And then she's like, you know, if you're in the shower, I might take a peek, and like I like to eat like honey and Splenda. And he's like, you just be like putting some honey on your Splenda. She's like, not together. Like, it's just some of the weird things that I do. And then Aaliyah asks Uche what are some weird things that he does, and he's just like, oh, like, you know, I just don't like I don't have any weird things that I do. Like, I don't have it. Like, sir, everybody has that odd thing that they do in the privacy of their home, because they know if somebody else saw them, they would be judged. Don't act brand new. Don't send Aaliyah out here where she's telling you all this little weird stuff that makes her special and unique, and you over here act like you ain't got nothing. Don't do that. I feel like I'm saying so much of don't do that, Uche. So I'm just like, am I really as down for Uche as I think I am? Yes. Okay. Next we have Milton and Lydia. So they geek out about rock some more because they are huge nerds. And then Lydia asked Milton about what's one of his biggest traumas. and he tells a story about how he was in school. I think he said he was like 8th or ninth grade, and he was playing basketball, and like his back just started hurting out of nowhere. And then he ended up going to the hospital. He had scoliosis and had to get 12 screws in his back. And he was scared that he might be paralyzed, like he might not be able to walk again. And like the pain of just dealing with that was a lot. Like, he was probably like, he was 13 at the time. So he was like, who would love me if I was in a wheelchair? As Milton was like finishing up his story and was saying, like, voicing some of his insecurities about some of his health risk of being a very tall person. And he was saying that like he knows that he probably won't live like a super long life because like really like essentially people his height don't live very long. Lydia is really wanting to be in her like caretaker bag and is like, no, don't say that, da 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 da, and just like trying to be like really like reassuring and reaffirming, which is fine. But it was just the fact there was one point where like Milton was trying to say something and she was like, let me talk. Whoa. Like, Miss Ma'am, he is like really like pouring out his how you asked him about his insecurities and his trauma, and now he's trying to tell you, and you're just so gung-ho about being able to reaffirm that you are negating the fact that he needs to be able to say this. I was like, girl, shut up. But yeah, Milton is fine with it. He's like, I don't know, Milton just seems very go with the flow. I don't think it's necessarily naivety, but I think he's just kind of like, you know, whatever happens, happens. If it doesn't work out, we'll just go on to the next. So he's just like, okay, cool. So if he don't mind, why should I? So next up, we have Johnny and Izzy. Johnny and Izzy say that they both feel that the emotional aspect of falling for each other is there, but that they have more fun with their other person. But Izzy don't care. He still ends up breaking up with her. She is upset. So now keep in mind, Johnny has already ended things with Chris, and now Izzy has ended things with her. We haven't seen her date anybody else. I'm sure that there are still people in the house, but at this point we're kind of focusing in on who our main couples will be. So we don't necessarily get any insights into other people's dates. So I don't know if she's talking to anybody else at all. So as far as we know, the prospects for Johnny are dead. Izzy's gone. She cut off Chris. Okay. So Johnny goes back into the women's living quarter and tells the girls how they broke up. She pretty much wants to go home at this point, and that with Izzy breaking up with her to choose Stacy means that his real problems are going to start outside of the show. And how Izzy and Stacy are only having fun, and Stacy is just there listening. Like, you can see Stacy in the background just being like, so you don't see me? And she's just whispering about how much better she feels like she is than Stacy. So the girls convince Johnny to at least go and speak with Chris, because, you know, like, they do have a connection. And I'm still learning this show, but why is Chris still here? Because from what we know, like, Johnny was Chris's number one, and we didn't see him going on any other dates with anyone else. So we are to assume that he is still going on dates with other people in the house. But we just aren't seeing them. Which also, like, does everybody stay in the house the entirety of the 4 weeks? Like, that part I wasn't quite getting, because it felt like as the time went on, I don't know, it feels like we never see all like 15 women in the room at the same time ever again. So I'm just like, are people leaving? Like, how exactly is this working? Like, as someone who does research, I need a little bit more information about the parameters of this research study. Like, what's the control group? Okay, what are the effects that we are adding to make changes? I'm just not understanding what's happening. Izzy and Stacy are in the pods now, and Izzy is very happy to only have one person to focus on now. Like, you could tell that he was stressed out trying to juggle people. And so now that Izzy's only concern is Stacy, you can see he kind of like loosens up a little bit more and seems to be really like enjoying and working to have a genuine connection with Stacy. With Izzy being very cognizant of his feelings, he tells Stacy that he is falling in love with her, and Stacy is essentially like, I have strong feelings for you as well, but I'm not quite ready to say that word yet. And Izzy is hurt. So Chris is still conflicted about meeting with Johnny, because at this point Chris knows that he is Johnny's like backup plan. And so while he really likes her, he also likes himself and knows that he deserves better than being somebody's like number 2. So Chris goes back to the men's quarter, and here's where mess starts to happen again, because people like, do me a favor real quick. Think about the messiest, most gossiping person that you know. It's a man, ain't it? Okay, so we get back to the men's quarter, and Chris is talking with like Izzy, and maybe I want to say like 2 other people are there. They're essentially comparing notes about Johnny. And Izzy was saying how Johnny said that Chris was like a super safe choice. She knew exactly what her life would look like with him, and that didn't necessarily excite her. And then Chris was like, that's so interesting, because she said the same thing but opposite. Back in the women's living room, Aaliyah is telling Lydia how much she like is just caring for Uche, and how she's never been truly loved for herself, and how Uche makes her heart skip a beat. And the look on Lydia's face did not give supportive friend who is excited that her friend is in love. At first, the face read jealous, because, you know, she had Izzy ended things with her, and she was kind of on the fence about how she felt about Milton. And so I was like, I could understand it, like if you're a little jealous, because, you know, you are having those same feelings that she is having be validated. You're having those insecurities, and nobody is validating those for you. So like, that was my initial reaction. But I promise you, we're going to get into what that face probably actually was. So we go back to the pods. Uche and Aaliyah are on another date, and Uche got Aaliyah a journal, and he wrote her a poem. So Aaliyah is again talking about how she is afraid of how much she likes Uche, but you know, they have trust and honesty with each other. So like, she knows that like with them having like that good foundation, you know, they've already had one argument that they've been able to talk through and get past. So Aaliyah has the logical aspect of, we have these tools, this can work out. This is where it starts to get real, and I was on the edge of my seat. Uche, after hearing Aaliyah talk about trust and honesty, he says, speaking of trust and honesty, I have something to tell you. This is why we can't have nice things. I was like, Lord Jesus, what is he about to say? It just blew my mind. So Uche drops the bomb that he has actually dated someone on the show. So this season, the show is based out of Houston. I don't know if that's where it's based every year or if they like move the location, but they're all Everyone who's there is based in Houston. So like it stands to reason that there is a possibility that you may have met somebody in the cast before. But then he says that the person on the cast that he has previously dated was Lydia. Yeah, that Lydia. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. So when he says this, all the gears are turning, okay? Because the way that they bonded so quickly, because at first I was like, oh, Lydia's just a really cool a really cool person. She loves hard, 10 toes down. And Aaliyah, I want to be her friend too, so I can't blame her. But like the way she was going so hard when Aaliyah and Uche got in that fight, she was the first one consoling her, and she just was randomly saying things that I'm guessing Aaliyah hadn't told her yet. And Aaliyah did say that she was like, wait, how does she know that? It's because you already have been with this man. I was just like, wait a minute. And that is the end of episode 3. So I have to give it up to the Love is Blind production team because, babe, I was not expecting that. That's what I call a cliffhanger. Okay, they make sure. Oh, you thought you was going to go to sleep after 3 episodes? No. Get back here. There's one more. We flash back to day 1 at the pods. Uche and Lydia have their date. Lydia's already in the room. Uche walks in and he's like, hi, my name is Uche. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? And Lydia is like, wait a minute, I know that voice. And so she tries to play cute for a second and she's like, do you not recognize my voice? Because he still is like, okay, who are you? And she's like, your name is Uche. Well, she says his whole name, which I don't remember. She says his whole name and he's still just like, okay, who are you? And she's like, you don't recognize my voice? And he's like, no. And so she's like, I love Kobe. And he's like, which, first of all, I'm thinking they talk about the basketball player. How am I supposed to know? You talk about his dog. Okay. So she's like, I love Kobe. And he's like, Lydia? They have their little moment or whatever of recognition. And she's like, do you want to give it another try? Start from ground zero. And he's like, no, because we've already seen each other. That ruins the experiment. And so remember, this is day 1, so he's not smitten with Aaliyah yet. But he's like, yeah, no, that we've already seen each other. It defeats the purpose of the experiment. And she's like, oh yeah, okay. So we go back to present day in the show, and Aaliyah is hurt, which she has every right to be, because this girl has been in her face every single day, being her best friend, knowing what she knows and who she was with and who Aaliyah is falling for. And she just, in her ear. When I tell you the way I would have left that pod so fast, give me a second. I'll be right back. Because Lydia has a meeting scheduled with both my fists. Because what? Why would you play in my face like that? Aaliyah does take a moment to go get some air. When she comes back, she's voicing her concerns. Aaliyah is saying how she doesn't want to lose Uche, but she also doesn't want to lose her friendship with Lydia, which for me, I've already checked Lydia off of my book. We are no longer friends, because that's just grimy. Even if you knew that your ex was in the pod and you knew that I was falling for them, that's fine. But you don't have to be in my face. We could be cool, but you ain't got to be up in my face, being my day 1, my rider. So yeah, Aaliyah says that she needs to talk to Lydia. And then they go their separate ways. So next we have Izzy and Stacy. Izzy proposes. Stacy says yes. Stacy goes back to the living quarters, and Johnny is very deep in her fifis. So we go back to Chris and Johnny. Chris does accept Johnny's apology, but does still decide to have things cut off between the two of them. Johnny is hurt again because she done ran back to her rebound, her number two, with her tail in between her legs, talking about, so, oh, you know, you're all this and that, and you're so different from what I've done in the past. And he's just like, okay, that's cute. You can go ahead back over there. Go on where you thought the grass was greener. Okay, so Aaliyah and Lydia finally talk. Aaliyah tells Lydia that she knows. She's like, I know, Uche told me. Lydia bursts into tears. And I'm just like, what are you crying for? Like, I'm talking boo-hooing. Lydia says that she didn't want to say anything to Aaliyah because she didn't want to ruin Uche having a fair chance with her because of Lydia and Aaliyah having a friendship. Which the words that she's saying, I can understand that as a reasoning. But Lydia saying the words is not making me trust her in the least bit. You're saying it, I hear you saying these things, I don't believe you. So Aaliyah asked Lydia, like, essentially, does Lydia still have feelings for Uche? And Lydia says she might probably still fall for him. Which, again, me, myself, personally, I wouldn't have even had that conversation to ask that question because I would have already cut that girl out of my life. We as the audience already know this because in the day one flashback, like, she was gung-ho. Like, she's like, oh, like, do you want to start first? Like, do you want to try again? And he's like, no, not really. Lydia is talking about her and Uche's time in the pod, and she was like, talking about how she recognized him immediately and, like, even his breathing, how, like, she recognized that. And Aaliyah is a champ. She's just, like, listening to this girl talk about essentially how in love with her man she still is. And how, like, even, like, the sound of his breathing. And then, like, Lydia just, like, word vomits so much stuff about, like, what kind of whiskey Uche likes and what his favorite color is and how he has a car that's the same color as his favorite color and how he has, like, a 3-story house and, like, all the... And Aaliyah's just sitting here, and at one point Aaliyah does say, like, I didn't want to know that much, but Lydia still keeps talking. I'm just like, girl, shut up. Before the word vomit, Aaliyah was, you know, trying to say that, like, she did want to still be friends with Lydia, but she also does not want to lose Uche, and, like, she didn't want to be, you know, looking over her shoulder to, because she felt like Lydia might be trying to, you know, steal her man. And Lydia was like, no, like, there's nothing there anymore, you know, that's just Aaliyah's husband to me now. But then immediately followed by a literal, like, 5 minutes of just Uche's popsicle so deep down her throat. And I'm just like, girl, are you dumb? So Aaliyah goes back into the pod to talk with Uche, and they talk about the Lydia issue, and it's hard for Aaliyah because she's like, you know, she can't talk to both of them at the same time. She pretty much has to get one person's story and go to another person and take that story, go back. Like, she has to just do a whole back and forth where she's the messenger in between. And she was saying how she feels trapped with Lydia because she lives with this woman who will not stop talking about her past with Uche. Which, granted, that's not necessarily Uche's fault. That's on Lydia. And it's also kind of on Aaliyah for not being like, girl, if you don't shut your mouth. Because she did nicely say, like, hey, like, I really don't want to hear this much. But, like, Lydia, one of them people, like, you can't talk soft with. Like, you gotta, girl, I said shut up. That's how you gotta talk to Lydia. After Uche and Aaliyah's pod, we go over to Milton and Lydia's pod. So I guess with Aaliyah knowing the past, she's like, well, let me go ahead and tell Milton my past. And she lets Milton know that she dated Uche and that it ended within the last couple of months. And Milton is hurt. The part that got me was, instead of fully telling Lydia how he felt, Milton was trying to be like, oh yeah, no, I'm cool. Like, I'm just listening to you. When like, we can see that like his head is in his hands. Like, this man is hurt. Like, he's sad. Like, he's in his feelings. But like, whenever there's a long silence and Lydia's like, Milton, like, you there? Are you good? He's like, oh yeah, no, I'm just listening. Listening to what? Babes, no one's talking. At least say you thinking. Milton says that he needs to go get some air. Lydia's like, are you gonna come back? Girl, you are weak in the knee. Stand up. Like, I understand she like fighting for her man or whatever, but like, this 3-year-old about to start having a temper tantrum pouting you doing right now is not cute. He was just like, yeah, like, I just need a second. Like, I just need to like go take a walk, get some air. And so he leaves the pod to like, go collect himself. She goes back to the pod, a blubbering mess. Stacy is consoling her, but she was really good at consoling her. And I was like, okay, Stacy, you get some brownie points. Still not my favorite, but you did good, girl. So then they take a breather and come back, and Lydia asks Milton how he's doing. This boy gonna say something. Oh yeah, I'm great. What? So like, I don't know who tore that baby down so far to where he feel like he can't. I'm sorry, these kids are so loud on the side of my house. I fully understand now why the folks be like, get off of my yard, because all I want is a piece of quiet. And I swear there is always something. Anyway, they get past it. Lydia cracks a joke. Milton is like, bruh, of all the jokes to make right now, like, that's what you say. But like, you can tell that like he's kind of laughing about it, but he's just like, that's too soon. And then he's like, that's something I would have said. And I was like, I can see that. I can absolutely see you saying that. But I feel like had the shoe been on the other foot, I don't think Lydia would have laughed about it. Don't think she would have. After their reconciliation, we go over to an upcoming engagement, which I completely forgot about. I got so wrapped up in the Uche and Lydia mess, I forgot that there were other couples in here. Like, I was invested. Izzy and Stacy meet, because remember he proposed to her, did the Millie Rock, all that. Izzy's pants were very tight, like real tight. And I get that he's a buff dude. Can we go up a size and maybe just like tailor it at the waist? So after Izzy and Stacy meet, we go back to Lydia and Milton in the pod, and you can tell that he's about to ask the question, but he is so nervous, which I think is so adorable. Like, he knows he's about to ask. She knows he's about to ask. We know he's about to ask. But we can't rush the baby. We gotta let him do it by himself. Milton is asking Lydia some more questions and like essentially trying to calm himself down to work up the courage to ask the question. And in Ultimatum Queer Love, like I have watched all of Ultimatum. In Queer Love, one of the couples describes her partner as someone who waters the grass wherever she is. And that quote popped in my head at this moment because Lydia had been like, oh, like, I want you so bad. Like, I just want to hold you. I just want to hug you. I'm here for you. And it was just like, she was, and like, again, granted, we don't see the fullness of them bonding. Like, I'm sure they have a great connection. But all I see is Lydia goes from being rather unsure to being 10 toes down for Milton. And it's giving, I water the grass wherever I am. But he goes ahead and proposes. She says yes. And then we get back to Uche and Aaliyah's pods. And so we see Uche walk into his pod. And he's like, hey baby. And there's just silence. The camera like zooms around to like the front part of the couch, and we see like the stool there, and on the stool is the journal that he gave Aaliyah. And it's just more silence, because he's waiting for a response. And so finally the producers show us her pod, and it is empty. Like, I don't even think got no snacks in there. It's just empty. Somebody comes over the speaker and it's like, "Hey Uche, what's up? Yeah, she gone." Well, he really said Aaliyah has decided to no longer continue with the experiment, but I like mine way better. Uche goes back to the living quarters because they're always like, he fully was in the mindset of like, I'm gonna go in here and propose to this girl. And so he goes back to the living quarters, and they all look up and they like see his face, and they're like they're smiling because like they're expecting to cheer him on of like having proposed, but they feel the silence and see his face, and they're just like, what happened? And Uche's like, she's gone. It's not funny, I promise, but like, because just the whole situation was so messy. Because I really feel like she more so left because of Lydia than because of Uche. But at the end of the day, she needed to leave because that was just a lot. I do want to talk about one part in the preview for the next couple episodes. So Aaliyah does come back to have a conversation with Uche. I don't know what to talk about. We're not gonna talk about it. But she has a wash and go. So in the pod, she had like some long twists, kind of like these. But out and about, she has a wash and go. And sis was already giving me Ari Lennox vibes. But like, if I wasn't already in love with Aaliyah before, I fell in love with her even more because her hair, like Aaliyah is just so pretty. And I was like, girl, I don't know what side of the spectrum you fall on, but like, I'm single as well, and like, what's a plane ticket? Like, I could be in Houston whenever you need me to be. Like, but yeah, so that is Love is Blind episodes 1-4 of season 5. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have watched to the end, please remember to like and subscribe, share with all your friends. I'm trying to rebuild this YouTube channel. I need to get some more followers so that we can share our love of the mess with our new friends. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.